Here.
Vice Chair Idner.
Here.
Commissioner Wilson.
Here.
Commissioner Ruff.
Here.
Perfect. And
Then, if everyone would stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin. Thank you. Okay, and then we will have public comments, general public comments, and we have one card for that. So, Tim Kraut.
Good evening, commissioners, staff. What I want to talk about this evening is Soul Park. I understand that maybe there's a new ad hoc committee that's being formed for Soul Park. If so, that's great. I'm all for it. I feel that you guys should have been involved in this before then coming in the back door like you were brought in. That wasn't really done right. Hopefully that you'll find out that maybe this will be a benefit to the city, and maybe you'll even see if it's viable to do this thing at Soul Park. But I noticed a couple meetings ago that there was a mention of some people that you could talk to about getting some information about Soul Park. I have 3 ideas that I'd like to present tonight to you. Number 1, the first person you should talk to is past county CEO Johnny Johnson. Okay, Johnny Johnson ran the county. He would know why the county offered the city Soul Park. Okay, the second person is Steve Olson, past council member. The county, when he was on the council, the County of Ventura Parks Department offered to the city Soul Park. They denied it. After that, I went and talked to Steve and I said, why did you not accept it? And he told me it didn't pencil out. So it's the bottom line. The third person that you could talk to is Commissioner Intern. Tell me if I'm wrong, but you've been on the commission where it's been brought up twice? Okay, so it's been brought up twice that you know of. So with those 3 people right there, that's all the information that you, the commissioners and staff, really need to make a decision to go further. I think when it's all said and done, you're going to find out that it's the bottom line. It's all about the money. Thank you.
All right, that's the only general public comment that we have for tonight. Are there any others? Okay. Thank you.
6A.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we're on to item 3, which is our police report. If you'd like to give us a brief summary.
Of course, and thank you. We'll begin with a summary for the police report for the month of April and follow up with an update for the month of May. In April, beginning at the skate park, there were 3 calls for service, 1 extra patrol noted, and 2 calls unrelated to recreation. For Libby Park, there was 3 calls for service, 1 extra patrol noted, 1 arrest made, and no calls unrelated to recreation. For Zero Zodi, there was 2 calls for service, 8 extra patrols noted, and no calls unrelated to recreation. For City Hall campus, there's 3 calls for service, 1 extra patrol noted, and no calls unrelated to recreation. For Cliff Vista Park, Rotary Park, and Daly Ranch Park, there is no calls for service or other activity noted. For the month of May, beginning with the skate park, there was 1 call for service, 5 extra patrols noted, and 1 call unrelated to recreation. For Libby Park, there's 2 calls for service, 1 extra patrol noted, and no calls unrelated to recreation. For Zero Park, there's 2 calls for service, 3 extra patrols noted, and no calls unrelated to recreation. For City Hall campus, there is 1 call for service, 2 extra patrols noted, 1 arrest made for an outstanding warrant. And for Clough Vista Park, Rotary Park, and Daily Ranch Park, there is no calls for service or other activity noted. And that concludes the police report for the month of April and May. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any comments or questions? Okay. Thank you very much. Let's see. On to item 5, which is our consent items. And the only item on our consent items tonight are our minutes from our April 26th meeting. Any comments, corrections?
I noticed on the pickleball discussion, on page 3, says, after receiving the presentation, the commission deliberated the committee's recommendations. After a thorough discussion, the commission agreed to relay the recommendations with modifications as noted during the discussion to City Council for consideration. But the modifications aren't in the notes. It seemed like it would be helpful to include that. I think it was primarily just the testing cadence of how often we'd measure the background noise and then the playing noise. So.
Okay, yeah, we could definitely go ahead and make that modification to the minutes, include that in there.
Okay.
I agree. I think that's important, and thanks for bringing it up. I mean, I'm assuming that the report that's going to be forwarded to the City Council will have the modifications, but I think it's good to have those here so we they're recorded in the minutes as well.
Correct, yes, and the report does include it along with the committee's full report as well.
I'd entertain a motion with those changes.
I move we approve the minutes with the addition of the specific recommendations.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Motion passes.
Okay, consent items are done. On to item 6A, presentation, where actually this is a subject is an update on pickleball. So I'm assuming let's do our update first, and then we'll have comments after that, and then discussion if there is any, but it's really not a discussion item, so.
Correct.
Okay.
Simply an update. So we'd like to go ahead and take this opportunity to share an update on the Commission's recommendation to City Council relating to pickleball. A staff report with the Commission's recommendations and the ad hoc report has been prepared and is scheduled to be presented to City Council at one of its upcoming meetings. We anticipate this would be in early July. Once we have a date definitive, we'll make sure to circle back with the commission and share that date so that way we're all in the loop. But that is queued for an upcoming City Council meeting. And that is our update for this time around.
Okay, thank you for the update.
Mm-hmm.
Now we will have public comment on this item. The first person will be Lynn Claife.
Good evening, everybody. Leonard Claife. I live in the city of Ojai. When I addressed you all last month about pickleball, I mentioned that the city did not advise any of the residents nearby before they put in the pickleball court. And I was thinking about that afterwards, and the reason why seems to me to be that nobody knew anything about pickleball back then. The only other explanation is that they knew and just wanted to screw over the neighbors, but that doesn't seem likely. You all at the last meeting presented the enormous growth of pickleball over the last 5 or 6 years. If you were going to put a pickleball, if the city were going to put a pickleball court in somebody's neighborhood today, I can't believe they'd do it without notification first. If you Googled pickleball 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, I don't know what you'd find, but it wouldn't be much. Now you Google pickleball and there's article after article after article after article about disputes about noise. The increased knowledge with the increased play demands increased diligence and oversight. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Tim Kraut.
Good evening again, Commissioners, staff. So I've been coming and giving you little updates on the amount of people that we have, comparing them to Libby Park. So for the month of May, I did it again. Mornings only, weekdays only. So at Libby Park, there was a total of 20 days. There was a couple of days there that was raining, so I discounted those. I didn't count those days. So 20 days in May, there was 222 players over here on 8 courts. And that equates to 1.3 players per court, okay? So down here, we had 435 players over 20 days on 1 tennis court, and that equates to 21.7 players on 1 court per day, okay? So we keep experiencing growth. We have a lot of people coming in out of town, a lot of people emailing me about when can we play, where can we play. I advise them they can play at the athletic club. I tell them they can play at the Ojai Valley Inn. It costs a little bit more over there to play. And I advise them of our hours here. Last weekend, over this past weekend, midday, I noticed some people down here playing, young people playing. I stopped by the court, I asked them to quit playing, and I advised them to look at the signs out here, and they said to me, oh, well, we didn't see the signs, but we noticed that we just figured this was a park, and we were going to just here to play. On Monday noon, same thing happened. There was 2 young teenage boys out here. They had tennis rackets with them and paddle rackets with them both. So they're playing both sports. I asked them also to quit playing and to please observe the signs. So I don't know if there's something that maybe we can do to post playing time so that they don't play during the off hours. But I asked them to please look at the signage, not to play during the off hours. It warmed my heart to see those young people playing, because this sport is for everybody, young and old. And hopefully this can get in the school system and get some young people involved. And but I don't know what maybe we can do as far as some extra signage or something so that people will recognize that they can't play during those hours. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Leslie Rowe.
Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you for having me. I am the council member for District 1, and I just wanted to report that I am getting information from people in my district and out of my district who are starting to play pickleball and are wondering how are we going to expand and where are we going to play. So it is now kind of seeped down into districts, people playing. You know, I do play here, but I also play in many other places. So this is not my sole place to play, but it is many people's sole place to play. They are not members of the athletic club. They do not go to the Ojai Valley Inn. When you look at who plays here, we do have people who come in and are visiting, but for the vast majority of people who play on these courts, they are Ojai residents, Ojai Valley residents, and we are providing a great service to them. I did play here this weekend, and one thing that was amazing to me is that it's now a family game. Parents come out with their kids, and everybody can play. I used to go play tennis with my dad, and it took many years before we could even have a game, really, to play. But I have been taking video, and I'm going to put something together so you can see. We had two kids, 2 young girls, you know, maybe 11 and 12, playing with their pregnant mom. And it was amazing. You know, they were all there playing. We have parents come with their sons and play, mothers and fathers and kids. That's who generally plays here on the weekend, because they need a place to go, and they bring the whole family. And meanwhile, some of the kids are running off playing in the park. You know, others are playing pickleball. It's really an amazing thing that you don't generally see at courts. And the funny thing is I happen to run into those people in my district. And so we talked a little bit about playing pickleball and how it was for everybody. It's multi-generational. So I hope that we can keep that in mind as we move forward, that there are very few sports that girls play with their mothers and fathers play with their daughters. And as we build out Sarzati, we're building basketball courts and futsal courts. Some young girls play futsal, but those courts are basically gender-specific basketball. I mean, look at who plays basketball. So we need really to think about, what do we do with the girls, right? What do we do with the girls? Where do they play? So that is the only thing I have to say. And thank you very much for all of your work. I know how tricky it is. So thank you.
All right, thank you. Next is Karen Quimby.
Good evening, Commissioners. I represent the neighbors of the courts here. And I guess I don't have a lot to say. I did prepare and send you all, I think, a 10-page document with our objections to your final report, some misstatements and objections to the final recommendations. And I believe those all fell on the deaf ears. So, I just want to say that we're deeply disappointed that the Parks and Rec Commission, has failed to follow specifically the recommendations of the PSM sound engineer, professional sound engineer, engineering study that you commissioned at taxpayer expense, and ignored completely the recommendations for sound mitigation at City Hall courts. They recommended a 30-foot barrier around the courts that would solve the problem of the noise. That's not in your final recommendations. They also recommended a 15-foot barrier around all four sides of the courts, plus mandating quieter paddles and balls for all players, not just a handful of players, which is what your current program suggests to the City Council. And so it's just kind of baffling to me that would have been ignored. And basically what you've proposed to the City Council actually takes us backwards. Because right now there's a green paddle requirement that is unenforceable, because I've called many times and nothing has changed. I go by here all the time and I hear loud paddles constantly. And now you're taking away that requirement, you're suggesting taking away that requirement and replacing it with a program of encouragement. That is, to encourage players to use quieter paddles and balls, but actually not requiring them to do so. So it's just a little bit baffling to us and disappointing to have not been heard through this whole over a year-long process. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments before we move on? Okay. So we're going to move on to 6B, which is the capital improvement project update.
Thank you. We wanted to go ahead and take this opportunity to share an update on the Parks and Recreation capital improvement projects and provide an update on the sports courts, as well as provide an update on the sports courts project. In addition, we'd like to invite the Commission to provide feedback on the work that has been completed on these CIP projects, as well as provide the opportunity for the Commission to identify which projects are a priority to ensure that funding and resources match priorities. In In the city's fiscal year 22-23 adopted budget, there are 11 categories of projects included in the CIP, with Parks and Recreation as one of the 11 categories. In a 5-year period ranging from 2021 through 2026, $3.36 million have been identified for Parks and Recreation projects dedicated to improving amenities as well as facilities. We'll provide an overview of the projects for fiscal year 22-23, and a full list of the 5-year period projects can be seen in attachment A of the staff report. Beginning with Libby Park, the Libby Park restroom sewer line pump project was completed in September of 22. The city's public works team, in partnership with the Ojai Valley Sanitation District, replaced a nearly 100-year-old sewer line system at Libby Park with a state-of-the-art low-pressure sewer main system. This new system uses a grinder pump station that reduces chance of backups and includes backup storage in case of any power outages. In addition, at Libby Park, we had a Libby Park restroom remodel. While this project has not commenced, the restrooms have served their intended purposes well throughout the years. And to enhance these facilities, a remodel was rescheduled in the CIP for fiscal year 22-23. While it's not uncommon for projects and timelines in the CIP to change, the planning and execution of the sewer line system was prioritized to ensure it provided a solid foundation for this particular restroom remodel project.
Sure. Thank you. Sorry to interrupt. I wanted to jump into the conversation too, just because I wanted to give a little bit more of like the background of why we're bringing this to the commission and sort of what like the big picture, I guess. And some people may have followed it and tracked it from the council meetings. But in short, with our current year budget, we had a council review of our active transportation project, which is the bike trails and pedestrian improvements being added to the Maricopa Highway and the Ojai Avenue Caltrans highways. And when we brought that project to the council and we talked about the increased cost of oil-based products at this time and asphalt and concrete and things like that. And so we brought some updated cost estimates, and the updated cost of the project had increased about 30% in the last 5 years, and it increased from about $4.5 million to $6.5 million. And so at that time, when we had the meeting with the council, we talked about, we have grants for most of the project, that $4.5 million portion, but we don't have grants for what's now anticipated to be the overage on that project. We obviously all agreed that we would try to keep applying for grants, but there's a possibility that at the end of the day, the city may have to contribute some funding for that project. And so that started the conversation about we all need to really think next year and for the next 5 years about what the real priority projects are and which ones can wait and which ones can't wait. And so what we committed to do and what we want to do and what we want to start doing moving forward is when we have those conversations, actually come back to the commission and have the commission be part of that conversation and give feedback. Luis, I think, has a really good communication with the commission, and I have a sense that when Luis and I met and said, let's look at the parks projects and see which ones should be prioritized and which ones maybe get pushed back, that I think he had a good sense of what the commission would want to see, but we still want to come back to the commission and say, are we reading the room right? You know, are we wrong? And so this is our attempt to do that. We brought back the spreadsheet document, and it shows what we had planned to do versus now what the new plan is, and the new plan for the next 5 years. And what we're looking for as part of that, Luis's report gives a lot of background on the individual projects and what's going on with them. But what we're looking for mostly is the feedback from the commission about, you know, is there a project that we said could wait that shouldn't wait? Is there one that we prioritize that could wait? And hopefully we all look at it and say like, oh yeah, we're on the same page, but we won't take offense if that's not the case. And I think to the positive, just a couple more key pieces of background. The city as a whole, before Measure C, the hotel tax increase, the city as a whole budgeted about $600,000 per year to all CIP projects. With the hotel tax increase generating $3 million a year, we are now budgeting $670,000 to Parks and Recreation. So we are now, you know, the positive is we are now able to budget more than we used to be able to budget citywide just for Parks and Recreation. The challenge, I think, is there's so much deferred maintenance from years and years and years that if you read the list from this meeting, it hasn't been very exciting so far. The sewer line pump system, you know, it's great because when we have a festival or Ojai Day, there's not sewage backing up into the park anymore. And that's really important, but it's not a fun project. You know, it's not something that people are going to bring their kids out to look at, you know. So the good news is we're starting those projects. We're starting to get things, we're able to start making progress on those. You know, the examples this year are all sort of those maintenance projects, fixing the sewer lines so that the sewage doesn't back up at the park. Fixing the pergola in front of the park so it doesn't collapse on people. And that was years overdue as well. Moving the trash enclosure out of the way at Serzodi Park. Fixing the gym wood column replacements, which wasn't on the plan, but we noticed that they were in bad shape and about to be problematic. So we fixed those. Re-flooring the gym floor. So, you know, the good news is we are able to do those things and we're starting to catch up on that deferred maintenance. But we're hoping over the next couple years that we actually get to some projects that are really going to be exciting and positive for the community. And so I guess I'll just sort of jump into it. So for year one, what we're proposing as some of those projects, I think the big focus is the new playground at Serzodi Park. And so that's the biggest chunk of money, $210,000 budgeted next year. Originally, that was something we're looking to do this year, but for a lot of reasons, the timing didn't work out. And so we're looking at doing that next year. And I think, like, really in summary, I think the idea would be that would be the big project next year. And I think that's going to be a lot of staff time, but also a lot of commission time. I expect that's going to be like a regular item on the Parks and Rec Commission agendas and something that we'd be probably figuring out how to do some, you know, workshops or get some feedback from the public.
Can I ask a quick question on that?
Sure.
When we refer to that now, are we referring to both playgrounds? So we're now talking playground, meaning the older kids and the younger kids as one project.
Correct. We're seeing it as one rather than two.
Yeah, and we've identified two years worth of funding to basically have like the phase one and then the phase two. And so we put the money in there over the next 2 years with the idea that we'd have money to be able to sort of figure out the game plan with the commission and the Parks and Rec staff working together. So that's the biggest chunk next year, $210,000. And, you know, and then the water park element that would go with that playground. So really about $240,000 there. And other than that, next year, there's not a lot in the plan. But I also think it's just realistic as far as like what we can actually get done. And then in year two, it gets a little bit more ambitious. We have phase two of the Serzodi Park playground, but we also then have the Boyd Gym roof at another $250,000. Well, actually, it's two line items on here, so $315,000 total, adding those two line items together. And then also the outdoor multi-sport basketball futsal courts at $750,000. So year two right now is very heavy. That may be a little bit ambitious as far as if we're still working through the playground with both staff and the commission, if those will proceed too, but right now that's the plan. And then year three shows the Libby Park bathroom remodels. And both the bathroom remodels and the outdoor multi-sport courts, essentially sketches, like going back like 2 or 3 years, sketches came to the commission of like what it could be and what it could look like, but there wasn't, well, with different levels, varying degrees, there wasn't a whole lot of the actual design work completed on either of those. I think we looked in the, yeah, it was options, is, some options to pick from. Yeah. So, so it's unfortunate that we've been talking about them a few years, but I think what we're trying to do right now is really like stop. And instead of kind of what the habit has been in the past is like, well, we didn't do any of these this year, so let's just put them all to next year. And then the list for next year just kept getting longer and longer. So we also, part of the exercise is like, we wanted to actually sit down and really say like, what do we really think we can all get done next year? And then the following year, and the following year, and actually have like a plan and not just, and if you look at the current budget line, everything was in this year. Like, it wasn't going to happen. It was just, yeah, exactly. So anyway, so I probably was all over the place, but the idea really was we wanted to give an update on the things that had gotten done, what the budget looks like, and what we are planning, what we think the commission would want to plan to do, but then get feedback from the commission on, if that's right or wrong, or if it needs to be changed. And last piece is this is going to go to the city council, the CIP as a whole, on June 9th. And so thank you for taking the time today, because it actually works pretty well that we're hoping to get the feedback from the commission, and we should still be able to incorporate that into the CIP discussion with council. So,
Can I ask a question about the bathrooms?
sure.
Because really what we saw weren't plans, they were these different options they
Yeah.
had for them. I agree, I think that next year will be busy
Mm-hmm.
with the things that are already proposed. I'm curious if maybe that could be broken down, because I see it goes year 3,
Mm-hmm.
500,000. Is it possible to start working before then? Because really, we're gonna hire that out, aren't we, to come up with plans and do that, to start looking at that even while we're planning some of those other things, because I don't know that that's gonna include quite as much staff time
Mm-hmm.
in its planning phase or commission time. I think the commission, you're gonna wanna bring it, we'll look at it, we'll start with maybe the options again, then the RFP will get, I'm wondering if it's a good way to break that up just a little, so that the planning and getting all of the stuff set up to go ahead of time, and then we could, I don't know.
Yeah, I think that it could be, but there's the time element, and I talked a lot about the time. What I maybe should have circled back to is there's also the funding element.
Okay.
And year 1 and year 2, I started to talk about the ATP, and I didn't really, loop it back. So sorry for that. But year 1 and year 2, what we expect is that we weren't expecting previously is, I mentioned the $2 million shortage on the ATP. It would be $1 million from year 1 and $1 million from year 2. So what that means is that some projects we had to push back to year 3 or 4 because we aren't going to have enough money to do all those things on year 2. So but the shorter answer to your question, the restroom remodel could be moved up if something else were moved back.
Oh, or if, I don't, just the planning phase is all.
Yeah, yeah.
If we could, I don't know what that would cost, so I don't know what that number would look like.
Yeah, I would say a
that
safe
year
estimate
2.
planning, maybe $150,000, So if we moved 150,000 up to year 2, but then we'd have to, find 150 somewhere else to move back. And ultimately, the commission could always say, well, we recommend doing it. Then when I get in front of the council, I have to say, but you can't afford to do it. And then they might have to pick, well, is there another line item somewhere else to move? So,
Okay. Do you want to take questions?
sure.
And then.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I've got a few questions. And thank you, actually, for the big picture and the
Thank you.
details. I do appreciate that. So I guess the first overall question I have, given particularly with the multi-sport court,
Mm-hmm.
how confident are you in these projections for these costs? I mean, given just how outrageously expensive things have become.
Yeah, varying levels of confidence depending on the project. I think the sports court, we're trying to be realistic that the prior estimate was not realistic. And, you know, there's arguments of like, well, cost really increased over the years and this and that. But I think even that being said, I think the prior estimate was low. And so we were trying to be more realistic. We increased the estimate from 500 to 750,000. But Luis, in his report, did a really good job of, he found other cities that have just done similar projects, and they're coming up more than that. You know, I think one of the estimates was 1.1 million, or not estimates, one of the costs that one of the other cities just got, was it Pismo Beach? Just was 1.1 million. So I think we're like making the effort to try to be more realistic. I think the idea, I do like the idea of doing design work for the projects, maybe like a year ahead. And then that way we know as we do the design work, if the costs need to be adjusted. And then that's another conversation as the part of the budget process where we come back and say, this project went up this much. Do we want to do it or cancel something else, or, you know?
Find grant funding, or
Yeah.
have more time
Yep.
to do the work, to look around.
Exactly. So that would be probably a good reason, though, to pursue that idea of having design funding for the big projects like the year before the construction funding.
So, overall, I have to say, I think a priority should be all what has been a priority before. Safety measures, bathroom remodels seem to me unimportant. These, you know, facilities that you don't want to get so behind on.
Yeah.
And so I would, you know, that would be a priority for me. But now I want to also bring up the multi-sport court, because I went back to, I think, perhaps one of the first documents I received when I came onto the commission, and that's the Sarasota Master Plan, which was dated May 2017. The survey that created that plan was from 2016. So we're, you know, and the estimates of cost, there's estimates of cost in here, which is for the multi-sport court. Not very useful at all. I mean, they're 7 years out of date.
Yeah, what was those
it's
estimates?
like-
I haven't looked lately.
Like
200,000 or something.
$250,000, right? So,
I wish.
But,
Which won't even get us half of one.
but I do want to bring up something else, because first of all, I again appreciate Luis checking with other cities, because I think that's very important to get current information. And given those other city's experience and the possibility that $750,000 doesn't get this thing built, I'm really concerned about committing any money to this project. It seems just out of the cost seems out of proportion to the benefit that this court is going to create. And I did go back and read through this master plan, and there was in the surveys, outdoor basketball courts did get like number 6 or something in the overall priorities, but there was no futsal. That came from the city council, and I understand that the city council has complete discretion and can do that. But again, it's like after 6-7 years, it seems to me it would be at least prudent for us to reconsider the multi-sport court and what it, you know, the cost, because compared to everything else, compared to the playgrounds, compared to everything else, it really is a huge investment.
But I think the other question you're asking is about the numbers. I'm not convinced the numbers for the playground.
Yeah,
I'm
I
not
mean,
convinced that's enough for the playgrounds, honestly, looking at other projects.
right, well, I was gonna say that,
So
yeah.
to be a fair comparison on all of these things, I think the problem is expenses are just, the
Right.
cost of doing projects are
Right,
now.
and the kind of the point I wanted to make is, given everything, all the different elements and all the different things that need to be done and people, residents want to be done, is it, you know, some of the money that might be needed for some of these other projects is sort of sitting there on this project that we could be twice as much as what's in that on the spreadsheet. So I guess I'm sort of advocating that the commission reconsider that, and also, you know, recommend to the city council to reconsider it and figure out a way to determine whether it really truly is something to go for. Because if we're looking for money for design of the bathrooms, for the park, for the playgrounds, there's $750,000 sitting there.
I think from my perspective, one of the things is that you've gone to the source on the documents and all of that. I think the other piece is that from a programming level, one of the things we really don't have is enough gym space.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
those are really could be wonderful for our basketball programs, because we're always short. So I see a purpose in them that is more than just that helps that helps programming. The other thing too, I think if you guys read it, is that has grant money involved in it, which has now been extended to 2028.
Right, no, I understand
so
that.
if we're looking at prioritization,
Right.
I'm not ready to throw out the project myself,
Right.
but I think that if we want to look at prioritization, I would be very open to focusing on the playground first, for sure, because we all know the playground is, very much in need of replacement and updating. It's people love it still, and it's still used a lot, but it could be. So I think that from my perspective, I would happily prioritize the playground project over this project for now, and push it out. We could push it out even further, because we do have till 2028 for the grant money.
Yeah, and that's really what I'm suggesting, and in pushing it out, actually kind of revisit the benefit and the demand, and see if that's still there. I understand about the basketball, and I think that basketball makes sense to me, and would relieve, I think, some of the pressure. But I also, I think it's just reconsideration is really what I'm asking for, and pushing it out. I think is a way to reconsider. Yeah, yeah.
Time to know that maybe it's not right now that we want to do. Also from cost. I mean, I'm forever hopeful. Maybe something will change with the cost.
Hopefully they'll come back
I don't know
down.
if it's going to, but
Yeah.
I'm hopeful. So for something like that, I see the advantage of pushing it out farther.
Well, there's always Australian basketball, which is really cheap. They just stick up nets and they play on, play on grass. It's a passing game. There's no dribbling.
The other positive thing, or the other way this sort of works together, is that we do have the All Parks Master Plan scheduled in year 2, which is an opportunity to probably get more feedback on what the priorities are.
Okay.
So if you push the outdoor sports courts back a year or 2 up to the commission, that then will give us the time, and a process to get that feedback and figure out what the priority is.
I'm very comfortable with that.
Yeah. I think that, and I guess I have one final big question, which you probably can't answer, but I'd just like to hear your thinking. Does this CIP have any consideration of what may happen at Soul Park?
So the CIP doesn't, but it's because it's currently in the general fund. And the reason it's in the general fund, is that when it came up, it was mid-year, and so we had to look and say, where's there funding that we can use? Our general fund has what's called a contingency line item that we can allocate for unexpected expenses. So we looked and saw that we had money in the contingency fund, so that's where we identified it. Then also, it's a little bit of like a argument, but the funding that we included so far was for the potential arrangement with the county, and we didn't see that as a capital project, so we put it in the general fund. So it doesn't show up in here, just like things like, like our employees for recreation don't show up in here.
But
and
it could, if the agreement goes through and there's the idea of building pickleball courts goes through, that's a capital improvement.
And we would need to allocate funding for it. I think that we had allocated, something. Well, and I almost don't want to say the amount because we're trying to negotiate with the county. So,
Can I interject that maybe on my list of things for this discussion was to put pickleball facility way out on that list, not with any detail of exactly how.
Okay.
But put it out there that it's on, it's years out, it's a couple of years out.
Well,
we've noted it, it's in the plan.
Okay.
We want to focus on it, we're not sure how, and we're not sure what's going to,
that's a good idea.
But I think we could easily add add it. I think we should.
Well, that's really what I was trying to get at, is, I mean, and I don't know about anything else that might be required there, but, in the agreement, but I just, and this is part of my pushing for us to get a strategic plan going. I mean, what are all the elements that we really have to consider? And in the maintenance, I mean, the maintenance is not usually capital improvements unless things completely break down, right? And then you have to replace
Yep.
things. So I think we want to try to avoid that, right?
Yep, exactly.
I think we should add it to the list.
Yes, we
The
should,
whole facility.
we need to add it, yeah, even with an asterisk or something.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And I think, Commissioner Inner said it best. I think without site-specific would be the best way to go ahead and
Yeah,
do it, is
yeah.
simply add it as a line item there.
No site. Now, what we could do, is there a thought to the year that you'd want to show that for now, or is it just getting it on the list, or?
Well, I mean, I think year 3 would be a good place, because I like the idea of getting the master plan worked out, and really working with good data and doing the work that we've never done for the whole system of our recreation and parks, versus we would do it site specifically each time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
What if the multi-sport courts and the pickleball were kind of spread over year 3 and 4, just to kind of signal they're like kind of
Yeah, that's what I was gonna go ahead and
Kind of
recommend. Is
So
a
just
few
split
years
it
out, we're not
Yeah.
quite sure what the order is.
Sure, and it maximizes the flexibility as well.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, and that's the nice thing. If we do something like that, if one project is priced great, you take the funds and
Yeah.
do one, and then, then you come back the next year to do the other, so
And possibly even separating out part of the 750 into 2 years, so that we're, that planning idea.
I think we'll do that, yeah.
Mhm. On the water park element, it seems like there's $60,000. Doesn't seem like that would
Doesn't, yeah.
cover that. I don't know what that.
Yeah, we were looking at that too, and that one, it's funny. I think I said, I'm like, is this like the one at Libby Park that's basically a door frame with
I
water?
don't think that was.
Maybe we can afford that.
I think this is promising something other than that.
Okay.
When we did
Yeah.
Sarasota, that was back when we were putting Sarasota, and that was
Right.
we'll move that. That'll be a Sarasota project.
Yep.
We're doing
Oh,
Libby
yeah.
project.
Yeah, I know Casitas was like, the deluxe package, the one they just did, but I think theirs was over $1 million, right, that they just did.
Well, it must have been more than that.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot more than that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think when I think about it, I think of a splash pad
Yeah.
or something. It
Yeah, that's-
doesn't have to be, incredibly complicated, but you need to be able to get wet
Yeah. So it's a
safely.
concrete
What-
pad and all the
What's a
water
splash pad?
treatment.
What is
They
that?
have water coming out of the ground in
Okay,
different places.
yeah, yeah, that's
and
what I
you can
thought,
run
yeah.
around. And there's
Yeah.
all different types
Yeah,
of
yeah.
splash pads. That's not the only way to do it. Some of them come from above. There's a lot of options and a lot of ways to get creative with it, but it isn't retaining a pool of water. You're not going in.
Right,
I mean,
it's-
it's very it's like a very
Yeah.
small amount, and it's to get you wet, but not.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I've experienced those. I know what that
Yeah.
is now. I didn't know what they were called.
I mean, maybe they have a different name for it, but that's what we referred to it when we were talking about it back at Libby. It was a
Right.
splash
No,
pad.
it's splash pad.
that's
Yeah.
a general term.
Yeah,
So it seems like the numbers for that should be like, to be realistic, should be higher.
Yeah.
And then also the skate park shade is still at 10,000. It seems like that's not gonna.
So that one was recently revised, and we did speak with the finance manager as well as Public Works Director to go ahead and increase that. And so we brought that up to, I think the newest figure was around 40.
Okay.
So we ended up bringing that up. So that money did get increased, so that way we could go ahead and do the shade
It shows on
structure
here
out
as
there.
10.
Yeah.
Might have been.
Yeah.
Just so.
Yeah, I think
It's been
it was
increased.
more recently.
it's,
We'll make
uh,
sure. I think it was increased, because we had scheduled this conversation last month,
Yep.
so I just think we did
So-
an
Got
update
it.
to the document.
well, it's like, it shows 10 current budget year and 10 year one.
40 is a shocking change from 12,
Yeah.
because I think 12 was the last cost. we got.
Yeah, and part of that is guess we should give a little bit more background. As Commissioner Firestone and I met with Public Works Director, as well as representatives from Phoenix Civil Engineering, and we're talking about the depth that the posts had to go in to make sure that the tensions up top holding the shade sails were going to be safe. And they had to go, if I'm not mistaken, about 8 feet down into the ground, and to be able to go ahead and have those posts go down and safely hold up the structure, it was going to be more of a cost than was originally planned.
Now, a lot of this has to do with working with the school district and where we position it.
Correct.
Changes. This has more to do somewhat to the new design, so that we are placing it differently. Is that part of it too?
It's, that is correct, yes.
Okay,
Yep.
so I would, before we even move on that project, would love to go back. There's a new board.
Mm-hmm.
There's, I mean, and see if we can't collaborate. Because that wasn't a possibility the last time we
Correct.
tried this project. So before we move forward, I would push that one off if we need to.
Okay.
To see if we can get back to the original plan.
Mm-hmm.
And if that has some cost savings, it's still going to be double, but maybe not triple, if we can use some of the existing structure, right, or be in places where it's an easier.
Sure, and one of the things
Project.
so one of the things that we can go ahead and do to provide some shade for the park goers is on the west end of the park is simply extend the fence another 5 feet and put the privacy screen like we talked about before as the tennis screen, and that's going to be minimal cost.
Okay.
So that's something that we can go ahead and do, and so that way once the sun is setting, it'll go ahead and provide that shade
And that's
element.
barely even a CIP project. That's
Correct.
more of a-
Right.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, and we met with the chief of police, went out there and made sure that there's no concerns on their end, and they're absolutely receptive to the idea. So that's something that we can go ahead and do to provide an element of shade for the park
It would
goers.
be really
but-
nice to accomplish
Yeah.
some portion of it. I
Mhm.
understand why the project's been hard, and we've had to go
Mhm.
back to the drawing board and redesign, and, hopefully be smoother sailing to try and collaborate on that.
Yep.
Yeah.
In the future. So I'm not saying maybe we would push it off if we, it is, maybe next year's fine, but it would be nice to try and get, have another run at all of that. I don't know if immediately or give it a few months and let them get it.
My suggestion, I think what we can do is we can leave the 10,000 for next year.
Okay.
And that way, if we get the opportunity to solve it easily, we have the money to do it. And
Okay.
if not, then we'll have to come back and have the conversation. Because Luis and I were talking about it. We're like, at what point do we just say it's not worth it? And
40,000 is,
we might be getting close to that. It was supposed to be just a quick, easy, simple
Yeah.
thing. And, the whole collaboration with the district was challenging. So, but I do think it's different. And I think we can re-explore that. So,
Yeah, I
yeah.
agree that I think it's worth
Yeah.
revisiting given the cost. I think it wasn't so much the footprint constraint from our meeting, but more just like the engineering.
and that
Of
would be
this.
either of the plans would be that.
Right,
Okay,
which was,
all right.
well, so I think what Luis is talking about with the vertical shade, that's super easy. There's no engineering required. But having the shade sails, the way it was described to us, it's like a big sail on a sailboat, right? And so you need to put in some pretty significant
Yeah.
posts to kind of hold everything in place.
So we have a new, so this is different than the original people we were gonna go with for the project.
So initially, it was going to be in-house with the city engineer. So yes,
Okay.
it
Got
would
it.
be a new firm that we would go ahead and
Okay.
do the work. But as mentioned, if the commission is receptive to it, we can do the vertical, and that's something that would be pretty minimal and provide that element, and then focus on the bigger picture
think it's a
down
great
the
idea.
road.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then just to close the loop, so if with sort of, and I'll admit, I think at one point I was the person pushing the multi-sport court, but it was because the grant was about to expire and we were trying to do whatever we could to figure that out. Now that being extended, it had to be a priority. Now it doesn't have to be a priority. It's up to the commission, and then ultimately the council. But I think with the idea we said earlier of splitting that out over a couple years, that actually would free up some money in year 2 if we wanted to do the design of the bathrooms. So we actually could add $100,000 or $150,000 to start designing the bathrooms in year 2.
I think that's a good idea.
This is really informative. Thanks.
Yeah,
Good process.
thank you. Yeah, we were excited. Like, we've been trying to work towards this for a while of being able to actually have these conversations. So I appreciate it, and thanks for putting it on the agenda. So.
Yeah, I think the only other comment I have is the playground is going to be also.
That it's funny you say that, because I think that's the second piece, is I think that actually would free up some money
For the playground.
for the playground. So what we'll do, I don't know exactly what that is, because we have to move the numbers and then update our spreadsheets. But I think I'm getting the sense from the commission that at the end, if it comes out that there's another $100,000 or $150,000 that's free in year 2 because of things that we moved around, that those should be applied to the playground.
And I think we will know better after we get our design work done this
Yeah.
year.
That's true.
And then that will inform what we need.
Yeah.
Because if we come back and we need the 150,000 from the restroom planning, I'm gonna say playground.
Yeah.
'Cause if you ask me for my top priority right now, it's the
Yeah.
playground at Sarasota Park.
Yeah, and that'll be an ongoing conversation for us. Like I said, we've already talked about, that's probably gonna be the standing item on the commission's agenda. So we'll be able to have those discussions and come back and say, well, this just went up, what do we wanna do
Right.
here, so.
Ongoing.
Yeah. Yeah, or it would be great if the costs have come back down at some point, so.
I'm gonna remain hopeful, but. Okay. Anybody else, any other comments before we move on? Thank you for all the work. I thought it just was a very easy way to communicate with the spreadsheet, and the recap of the projects we've done was very helpful, and the status of where the ones we're working on, so made it really a nice and straightforward discussion.
Could I just make one suggestion? I mean, I appreciate all the details too, but it might be a little bit easier to absorb if you clustered the completed, in process, and future.
Sure.
Or not started, just because, trying to keep it all in those categories, at least would be very helpful to me.
Yeah, we can definitely do that.
Yeah.
Agreed. We actually, this was the first draft of the new, let me get those right. This was the first draft of our new format, and we actually created, you can see in there's the heading for completed projects. But it's our first stab at it, and we knew, like, the first round, we did our best, but we knew that there were gonna be some things sort of, that were in progress that'll be done in a month or two, and then we can move them. So that's the plan, and we're working towards it. But I agree, especially reading, like, the one 5 years ago, I could not understand what was done or what wasn't.
That's because we
so.
had 2 sheets. We had our sheet, because we couldn't get our stuff on the other sheet, so we maintained our own.
Yeah, and there used to be a version that, like, was that I remember, it was like, well, that's on our plan, not on yours. And so our goal this time is to have one simple plan that everybody can read.
And all we were looking for was the collaboration. We ended up with our own sheet because we couldn't get captured what it was we were trying to accomplish or what our priorities are. So I think this is wonderful.
Exactly. Thank you.
Well, always glad to see progress.
Yes, yes. Okay, so we are on to 6C, which is City Council Commission appointment process.
Thank,
Yes.
Are you on 6B?
C.
Oh, I have a card turned in for 6B.
Oh, did I call you? Oh, sorry, it got in the wrong pile. Please, come up and comment. Sorry about that.
Item 6B?
Yes, well, we just were doing it, but please come, feel free to comment, yeah.
Good evening. Again, I'm Tim Kraut. I'd like to comment on item 6B, capital improvement projects. I'm sure glad that James is here tonight. I've got a question for him. So if I read this report from Luis correctly, are you going to postpone multi-sport court for 2 years?
So, per our discussion we just had, I think the consensus was to recommend to the council to postpone that project to year 3 and year 4.
Okay. All right. So, that saddens me because you guys, you commissioners have been working on that for 4 years. You've had a lot of discussion, a lot of time. There's been money set aside We've got Civic Association, 127,000 grants, and then the city. And then last year, end of last year, before the change of the council, they approved Measure C to finish that. I mean, that's my understanding. I remember the vote was taken, Measure C money, and you said, we'll take that out, and then as it comes in, we'll put it back in. So I think the longer that you delay these projects, the cost is not going down. The cost will always go up. I, in years past, was a general contractor, and every year costs went up. If it wasn't copper, it was drywall or other things. It always went up. So I think in delaying this project, it's going to be a lot more money. They gave a rough estimate of $750,000. I mean, it started out at $242,000 that I recall reading. That's quite a bit more than that. I did notice on Luis's report where you contact Ladera Ranch in Orange County. They built 4 new courts, 1 tennis court, for $350,000. That sounds like a pretty good deal to me. I'd like to know how they did that. Was that asphalt or was that concrete?
From my conversation with them, that was concrete.
Was it
Yep.
post-tension concrete or just concrete with rebar in it?
With that one, if I'm not mistaken, it was concrete with rebar, so it wasn't the post tension.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, as my understanding, the same thing with Pismo.
Okay, that's what I thought when I read that, because
Yeah.
that doesn't look like post-tension
Yeah.
concrete to me.
Yeah.
Okay, so, so given that information that I hear tonight, and it saddens me that that project's not gonna be done, because I thought you guys needed more things to put on the books so that you could rent out, that you could lease, that you could offer the residents of the community. They need basketball courts. You know, we're lucky that the school district finally put some in. There's people over there all the time. But that brings me back to Lower Libby. We have, the facilities are there. We have vacancy rates at 70%. We have 74 parking places that are not used. And we have a bathroom and we have lights. We could take a portion of that money that was Measure C or the grant and do all the changes there, half the price. We, the pickleball community, the nonprofit, has told the city, and I've told the council members, that we would pay for those improvements, no cost to the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So now we will reclose 6B and move on to 6C, which is City Council Commission Appointment Process. This is an update.
Yes, thank you. As we begin with this update, it's important to note the appointment process, or the update of the appointment process, which will be provided as the current practice. However, at its May 23rd, 2023 meeting, City Council considered modifying this practice, and should any changes be adopted to the current practice, staff will make sure to update the commission if those changes go through. So currently, the Parks and Recreation Commission is composed of 5 members and 1 non-voting youth member. Based on Ojai Municipal Code amendments via ordinance number 909, each council member appoints 1 commissioner, which is then ratified by the approval of the majority of the full council at one of its regular meetings. The first voting seat on the commission to be appointed or to become vacant is to be appointed by a council member representing district number 4. The second voting seat to become vacant is appointed by the mayor, and subsequent appointments are made in the following order, which would be City Council District 1, City Council District 2, City Council District 3, District 4, and then the mayor. Now, of course, if a member resigns before the end of his or her term, the city council member for the voting district that made that appointment shall appoint their replacement. And then the youth member is appointed by the mayor, and of course ratified by the majority of city council. While And it's in most recent appointments to the commission, Mayor Pro Tem Francina, Representative District 4, reappointed Chair Taylor, whose seat was set to expire in mid-2022. To this end, the next council member to make an appointment for the Parks and Recreation Commission would be the mayor, unless, of course, a commissioner resigned before their term expired. And again, should that happen, the city council member for the voting district would make that reappointment. With Commissioner Walker's recent resignation from the commission before his term expired, his seat is to be reappointed by Council Member Whitman, which is representative or represents the district number 3, and of course that's due to the former council member that appointed his seat, which was representing district number 3. An integral part of Ojai and its history, as well as its images, are its parks and recreation facilities. And should the commission wish to make or provide input on to council for consideration when making appointments to the Parks and Recreation Commission, the commission could consider developing a list of skills, traits, or other qualities. And if developed, this list would be shared with the clerk's office, who coordinates interviews between the incumbents and, of course, the designated council members. Once again, this process could potentially change, so it's definitely up to the commission if it wishes to put a list together of skills and traits for council to consider.
Anybody else want to, I have a comment, but does anyone else have anything they want to say?
I have a question. So the last time we discussed this, we were asked whether we wanted to expand.
Mm-hmm.
Where's that?
Sure.
Has that been approved or not?
Sure. So that has been presented to council for ratification, and it is in discussion. The motion, and James, please correct me if I'm wrong, is essentially the commission could have that ability to expand to 7. Yeah, but again,
Yeah, it's the so it's an ordinance change, so it has to come to council twice to get approved.
Okay.
So it went the first time on the last meeting, and it's scheduled for the second time at the next meeting. And at this point, the introduction of the ordinance increased the commission to 7. And so what we would expect is that typically the second reading and the adoption is fairly routine. So I think it's on pace to happen at this point. So
Okay.
I also just wanted to comment that I think that one of the best things that the council can do when they are appointing commissioners is to have the chair there at the interviews. I think it's the best thing we found, because more than just a list of attributes, I think whoever is the chair at that given moment has a sense of the work that's being done and the composition of the commission. So I would recommend. I'd love that was in the ordinance from my standpoint, because I think the commissions would all like to be there. The chair, we're happy to send our chairs to do the work and participate. The decision will ultimately come down to whoever's turn it is to make the appointment, and the council to ratify that. But I think that would be best practices.
yeah, and agreed. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe that was one of the ideas that was floated during the most recent discussion. So that's definitely a possibility.
Okay.
we can make that recommendation. When we bring the item at the next meeting, I am scheduling it as a discussion item. Typically, the second readings are consent items because they're like automatic. I don't think this one will be.
Okay.
So we're gonna do a discussion item, and I can note that if the commission has recommendations like that, I can still note those at that time. So.
The other recommendation I would have is that I've been on this commission as 5, and I've been on this commission as 7. I think there's values to both of those. I don't think there's an absolute necessity to say this is the one way to do it. So if there was a way to make it optional within the ordinance that it could, 5 or 7 is acceptable, and just have parameters for what that would look like for our commission. If we go to 7, we have a voting youth member. If we are at 5, we have a non-voting youth member, because that's really the only way it works. Our commission is unique in that having a youth member who is voting, I think that, I'm not sure where things are going on in city, out of city, but for this commission in particular, I think it would be nice to be able to flex to 3 out, because we don't know where our youth member is going to be from, in city or out of city, but if they're going to school here and they're part of our community, I don't think that should be relevant to this commission to hold the line to 2 if we're at 7, because I think we're unique. We're different than some of the other commissions. So that's something else I'd like to, if they could put that within the ordinance, I think that would be useful, specific to our
Did you say
commission.
non-voting for either,
5.
for 5, but voting for 7?
Yeah.
Okay, I
So,
just want to
can I-
make sure I got it right.
Can I just ask a question? So we're 5 now with a non-voting youth commission, so that there's 6 people sit around the table.
Mhm.
If we go to 7
We have
with a
one more.
voting, then are we 8 people?
No, we're 7
Not
people,
8
but
people.
we're 7 people, but we have a voting youth member.
So one of the 7 is the youth commissioner with voting rights. Okay.
And then the other piece of that is, if we're supposed to only have, at this point, the way it is now, we have the ability to have 2 out-of-city members on our commission. Ours is unique in that I would hate to see our youth commissioner chosen by where they live. So I would like to see that if we already had 2 out-of-city members of our commission, that when the youth commissioner came, it could be a 3rd out-of-city commissioner on this specific commission.
Correct, yeah, and so I think that you bring a very valid point, and so that would apply to the youth commissioner, whether they would be, within the city or outside of the city.
It wouldn't matter.
Yeah, right.
We would pick,
Right.
we'd have a pool of candidates, and we'd pick, the best candidate
Sure.
Because the youth commissioner is picked by the commission or by application, or how's that happen?
application and the commission is how it's been done
Okay, okay.
historically.
So, yeah, does that make sense to me, that you wouldn't, that what you said originally is that at 7, there's actually three possible non-residents, so you don't exclude
Right,
the.
For the
yeah,
youth
No,
commissioner.
that makes sense, yeah.
which these are unique
Mhm.
to this commission.
It's the only one with the youth commissioner.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think that's one of the big benefits to moving to 7 in my mind, is to have a voting youth commissioner.
I agree with that.
So is there a consensus then? I think I have 3 key recommendations. First, recommend that the chair be included in the interview process. Second, allow 5 or 7, subject to some sort of approval. I think, whether council resolution or whatever it is, but allow the ordinance would allow a 5 or 7 member commission with a non-voting youth member for 5, or a voting youth member if there's 7. And then the third would be, and the youth commissioner could be resident or non-resident, regardless of how many residents or non-residents.
And that would be for a body of 7.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that last piece was for 5 or 7, right?
Yeah.
It shouldn't matter for the youth
If it's a non-voting member, then
Yeah.
Yeah.
but and I think it would be ideal to have the 7 and a voting member, but if we're having a hard time pulling, forming the commission,
Mm-hmm.
or there's other reasons, I guess it would be nice to be able to have, I would think it would be nice for council and for the commission to have the flexibility so that it's not an ordinance change.
Yeah.
If you need to switch back and forth between the 2, or,
Yeah, it is. Right now, it is a little bit of a pain to have to do an ordinance rewrite every time we, get short on candidates for a while,
Right.
and then when we have more candidates. So. Okay, so if there's consensus, I can take that as the recommendation.
we feel comfortable with that?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, on to, and thank you for the update and the information, that was helpful. And, before we leave that really quickly, we're opening up, we're gonna open up, applications right away, because we're done.
Correct.
Okay,
Yes.
all right. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, so we're on to 6D, and that is an update on the aquatics programming. And I think we'll get the presentation, and then we will have public comment right after that.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So in recent months, staff has worked to reintroduce the aquatic program for community members to enjoy. With limited facilities for the program in past, the department has relied on its community partners such as the school district as well as Villanova to make this program possible. In recent conversations with these partners and other organizations, including Thatcher School, Ojai Valley School, and the Athletic Club, staff has learned that their aquatic facilities are not available this coming summer for the department to use due to pre-scheduled programs or maintenance reasons. And while this is the case, the department, if desired by the commission, could reach out to other agencies such as like Lake Casitas or the city of Ventura to inquire about a partnership to promote their aquatic programs to provide the community with some sort of resource for the summer. And in doing so, staff could also inquire to see if there would be some sort of discount through a referral program or process for city and valley residents. And again, if that's something that the commission would be willing to entertain.
So I'll open it up to public comment,
Yep.
and then we'll come back and we can participate. Bill Miley. Oh, sorry, you're up. Yeah, public comment for this item 60 is open, and Bill Miley, please.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Bill Miley. This is about the Ojai School District's 2020 bond issue, known as Measure K, which promised a school and community aquatic center if it passed. And it passed. So about 6 to 9 months ago, I was actively involved with a few other people in trying to influence the school trustees to honor their promise in their 2020 bond promotion that they would create a community and school aquatic center. And they defaulted on their promise. Those trustees aren't here anymore. They didn't either reapply or they resigned. Before they resigned, the trustees voted for a 35-meter pool at Nordhoff with little community opportunity, only when the school district wasn't using the pool. Some of you know that recreation pools have a temperature of about 85 degrees, and working pools, school pools, are somewhere around 80 to 82 degrees. It's a big difference, even though it doesn't seem like it. So we were promoting 2 pools, one for the community, which would be available 365 days a year, all the hours, including the evening, and then the school pool, which would be large enough, like 50 meters, so they could have swim meets with other schools throughout that come from other parts of the state. They didn't do that. They also didn't agree to spend $30,000 for an investigation as to where they would get the money to maintain it. So one trustee said, oh, we should use that money, bond money, for teacher salaries, which is against the law. They didn't know that. Okay. So I asked Louise before the meeting. He told me that you folks had sent to the old school administration a statement on aquatic programming that you would like through your recreation department and would participate with the school. I want to ask you to consider coming up with a new statement to the new interim superintendent and all new trustees on aquatic programming that could be done through the recreation department with the school district. I recently spoke to Kathy Smith, who, as you know, was appointed as a trustee. And when I told her about my interest in the aquatic center, she said something like, "Don't give up, Bill, that might be." So, in conclusion, the Valley needs a full-time community pool. We have 30,000 people in the Valley, and there's no pool available for the public unless they pay for it or they have kids in school. I guess you still can't use the Nordhoff pool if you're a parent. So the school district probably has up to $20 million in their bond funds for an aquatic center. This is a good time to promote a public pool as part of that aquatic center promise. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, so back to the commission for discussion, and you were asking a question.
Correct. And that's, if the commission would be inclined, staff could go ahead and reach out to other agencies such as Casitas or Ventura to promote their programs and inquire if there would be, if such were the case, if there would be a discount for city and valley residents.
I think it's a great idea.
So just so I understand, so in other words, you would ask Ventura if Ojai residents could participate in their summer programming
Mm-hmm.
in Ventura
Mm-hmm.
and with some kind of discount?
Correct.
Okay. And what does Casitas have besides the park?
That's what they have.
Is that what they
Yeah,
have?
they have the water
Okay.
park.
So this would be not the kind of programming traditionally that the department does, right? It would be whatever programming is offered at these other
Well,
entities?
Ventura already offers
Mhm.
the full swim programs, and they even do private lessons. They have a whole wide variety of things are on offer already.
Mm-hmm.
And Casitas, I know they do junior guards there, so they do have they have historically, I don't know if they're doing it this year or not, where they have a junior lifeguards program that they run out of there. I don't know what other programming they're gonna have, this year with the reopening.
Yeah, I'm unsure right offhand.
But I like the idea that you've exhausted all of the options within the valley and there isn't an option. So I think the best we can do is help people find good, like public offerings for swim at other agencies and see if what we can work out.
Yeah.
It's sad. It's really sad. We haven't not had an aquatics, we've had an aquatics program for years.
For years.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's really sad, but I know you went to a lot of effort and contacted
Yeah,
everyone you could.
I think because there's a lot of changes just simply going on in the community and maintenance, of
Yeah.
course. It's just made it a little bit of challenging, but the ultimate goal behind this is to provide a resource for community members
Yeah.
to be able to enjoy throughout the summer months.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I wonder too if you might think about transportation. I know it gets complicated, but maybe there's, an occasional bus or van thing that we could run.
Yeah, we can definitely go ahead and explore
That's an
that
interesting
possibility.
Yeah.
We can definitely go ahead and look into that.
There's also Libby Park Fountain. So.
Which is not
No.
a water element to play in.
Yes, no, we don't want to promote that one.
Where's the closest pool in Ventura, public pool in Ventura?
They run all their programs out of
Right.
Kimball.
Yeah, Kimball.
Where is that?
It's off of the 126.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
126 and off Kimball.
So it is possible to maybe do like a pool field trip
Mhm.
or
Well,
something.
or if there's a way to even provide if lessons are a week long,
Mhm.
drive sessions of, I don't know, that's an interesting idea.
Yeah, we can definitely go ahead and explore the concept. The first thing I wanted to make sure is to come to the commission, be mindful of the commission, see if this is something that we'd like to go ahead and entertain and start those conversations with these entities and see if it would be a possibility and then really work out those fine details.
It's a great idea, get
Yeah.
creative.
That's good. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, any other comments on that? Okay, we are done with 60, and we're on to information items. And so, back to you, Luis, for a Recreation Department report.
Perfect. So we'll go ahead and begin with one of our staple programs, and that's the adult softball program. And we just want to go ahead and note that playoffs are just right around the corner and anticipated to begin in June 6th. The program offers an excellent opportunity for adults to participate in an organized league. An emphasis is placed on healthy competition and recreation setting. For those that are interested in participating in the program, we're going to have a new session. That's going to be our summer session. That's scheduled to start early in July. Anybody that is interested in participating can visit us there at the Recreation Department or just by simply giving us a call. In addition to that, we're excited to announce that registrations are now available for a variety of our summer camps and classes. This year we'll host a variety of specialty camps, including arts and crafts, Lego camp, Kung Fu camp, Bravo music camp, mindful movement art camp, soccer, tennis, dance, gymnastics, all in addition to the department's famous day camps. For the department's day camps, full and half-day sessions will be available. In addition to field trips, we have a handful of field trips scheduled, and those will take place on Wednesdays. Field trips will be to the Moxie Museum, Skating Plus, Santa Barbara Zoo, Jumpin' Jammin', and Arroyo Verde Park, so we can check out their newest playground and see what elements work. In addition to that, we are pleased to announce that we'll be working with Nordhoff Cheer to offer 2 new tumbling classes through the gymnastics program. The classes are designed to help participants in the cheer program improve balance, coordination, as well as flexibility. And it'll focus on floor skills that develop introductory skills at handstands, cartwheels, back bends, bridges, and walkovers. The first class will be for high school students and will be offered on Tuesdays from 3:30 to 5:30. And the second class will be for those in middle school, which will also be offered on Tuesdays, but from 5 to 7. And in addition to that, we'd like to note we had a great turnout for the open house event, which was held on Saturday, May 20th. Various instructors were on site to answer questions about their respective programs and perform demonstrations. Demonstrations included the Ojai Daiko drumming group, Ojai Kung Fu, Tai Chi, Living Aikido, Starlight Dance Academy, Mindful Movements, as well as gymnastics. In addition, community members were invited to participate in free trolley rides as well as a raffle and check out some neat vehicles used by the Sheriff's Office and the Fire Department. In addition, we'd also like to go ahead and say thank you to our community partners who donated to the raffle. The raffle was a big hit and really provided an engaging element to the event. So again, we wanted to go ahead and say thank you for those donations. In addition to the open house event, the department also recently attended the Children's Wellness Expo at Camp Barnaz, hosted by the Girl Scouts of California Central Coast. We had the opportunity to engage with community members and other organizations to share the department's offerings and really explore additional program possibilities. We haven't really dove down too much into it, but we connected with an organization that's just based out of Port Hueneme called Real Guppy Outdoors, and they're very much interested in introducing a fishing program for our community. And it's something that could take place at Lake Asitas. So again, we haven't worked out the details and haven't fine-tuned that, but that's a very good connection that I thought we could explore. We'd also like to go ahead and note that the senior programs are gaining much traction at the recreation department. We're starting to get more and more seniors attend the puzzle club, ping pong club, as well as the knitting circle. And believe it or not, the line dancing is our most popular event.
That's great.
We actually just hosted it this morning. We had about 15 participants attend, and it's a really good form of exercise in a low impact setting. It's really neat to see the seniors really interact and engage with one another, and we really had a heartfelt moment the other day where we had I think it was a gentleman, late 60s, never knew how to dance, was attending his daughter's wedding up in Washington, attended a handful of these classes, and by the time he was done, he really went up to Coach Stacy, who teaches the classes, and he thanked her because he was able to dance with his daughter at her wedding for the first time. So it was those are the things that we love to go ahead and hear, making a positive impact on people's lives. With that, those line dance classes are held on Thursdays from 10 to 11, and drop-ins are welcome. For the department highlight this month, we'd like to go ahead and highlight Commissioner Firestone as well as Commissioner Walker for their contributions to the commission, community, as well as the recreation department. Both commissioners have recently provided notice that they are going to be relocating out of the area, and we just wanted to simply say that we are grateful for your input, dedication, and diligent work to the commission, as well as what you've done for the community. Your contributions have really helped preserve the park's special character. So again, we wanted to say thank you for all that you've done.
Yes.
Oh,
Can I intercede and say thank you too? Ryan has been here for quite a while and has been an excellent commissioner. He was integrally involved in building Libby Park Playground and did all kinds of work there, and then all of his work on the pickleball, and you've always showed up for everything we've needed, and it's been a pleasure to work with you, and you've been an excellent addition to this commission. And we're sorry to see you go, but glad you're off to do great things.
thank you.
I second all those comments.
Oh, thank you. Ojai is a very special place, and it's I appreciate having the opportunity to contribute to that. And, I know we've got kind of a skeleton crew left for the time being, but it's a skeleton crew of superheroes. So
We will miss you.
yeah, I'll miss all of you. I'll be back in a year.
Back in a year. Yeah,
Back
we
in
might
Ojai.
still have an opening. Let's hope not, but you'll be welcome back anytime.
Yes, very much so. And with that concludes the update for this time around.
Now, Ella, when was your last meeting?
Is it August?
Is it August?
Yeah.
Okay. Then we'll wait, but there are things that we should congratulate her for today as
Yes,
well.
absolutely.
She was named All-County Athlete Girl of the Year, which is across all of the different schools, all sizes, so that is incredible. I don't think anyone's gotten that honor since like 1983.
Yeah.
Was the last girl from Ojai to be named All-County, so that's excellent. And then she was, as we were talking right before we started the meeting, is going to go play on the All-Stars volleyball team?
The Ventura County All-Star Volleyball.
Yeah, where they pick kids from all over the county to play on one team and go out and play. It's east-west, you said?
Yeah.
Where are you guys playing?
Moore Park High School?
Yep, very, very, very exciting. Congratulations. And then, do you want to talk about where you're going to school?
I'm going to UCLA.
Okay, congratulations. Very exciting. All your hard work is paying off.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, congratulations. We'll do more later, but that was such an incredible honor to get the All-County Girl of the Year. It's pretty exceptional, so,
Thank you.
yeah. So we were doing that. Sorry, that was maybe not the totally appropriate time, but since we were saying goodbye and appreciating each other. So I just wanted to have a moment and share how proud we are of you.
Thank you.
Yeah, good job. So then we're on to City Council Liaison Report. So if Councilmember Rule would like to come up and speak for a moment, share anything you think is important for us to know, or?
Yeah, so I think, having James here, he kind of debriefed on everything that, the budget, obviously, and also, gosh, I had it in my head, and then, I just wanted to talk about and James spoke to it also, the configuration of the council. And there was one thing that I think didn't get mentioned, which is that as it stands now, on the ordinance, which will be reconsidered, is my take on it, is that for a 5-person council, there would only be one out of city resident allowed, and potentially none, although I don't think that actually flew. So, I think it's important to know what the commissions as well feel about that. I think that would have some bearing on council members' decisions, because you are actually doing the work, and how is it going to change the work that you do? I think it is very telling that, you have perhaps I mean, the school district is not Ojai specific. I mean, the city of Ojai specific. So, you know, and you have, as you mentioned, the only member who, you know, by virtue, you know, it straddles both the valley and the city. So it would be very limiting. And I think that's important to know. And, you know, maybe it's a exemption for this particular commission, or maybe it's, you know, it doesn't make sense in the long run. I don't know. I don't know how that discussion is actually going to go. And so that's kind of, it would be the budget and the commissions as the most sort of relevant to what you're doing. We will be looking at pickleball, and I have no idea how that's going to go. So I think that's it. If you have any questions for me, I'm happy to you know, debrief anything that you might know or
I would
want to
just
know.
share that I don't think we clearly talked about it, but just for your knowledge, I think this commission very much benefits from having in and out of city members, because the way that they're set up and who we serve is both. And so our commission's mission includes, you know, having an understanding of the greater, you know,
Right.
needs. So I won't speak to any other commissions, but for ours,
Right.
I think it's a benefit and it's a strength.
Right.
And I think it would be, I think it's helpful.
Yeah, and you know, we are not at the point where it's, you know, all commissions have to be, you know,
Exactly.
made up of the same in and out group. But in the end, maybe it is, you know, consistency across all commissions. I don't know. I don't know. You know, I would say that if you wanted to make, you know, a comment. I'm sure James will bring it up, and likewise, I will bring it up as your liaison, that this commission might be different.
Yeah. We already are uniquely different.
You are already
We already
uniquely
need
different.
special accommodations
Yes,
for what
yes.
we need. So I think if that could be presented as a way to keep.
Absolutely.
For
Yeah,
me, that
I
would-
will definitely present that.
Thank you.
Definitely present that. And, you know, other than that, I'm still interested in how the Soul Park sort of negotiations are coming along, because once the other commissioners left, it seemed like, you know, the momentum forward kind of, we're still, you know, I'm still trying to figure out like who actually is running, you know, who's the leader in that particular negotiation with the county, since both, you know,
Well,
council
I will
members.
share that regular agenda items are coming up, and my fellow ad hoc committee member is not here tonight, but our request is that for next meeting, we agendize it as a discussion item
Good.
for our commission. So
Yeah, and I think
that's our next step.
Yeah, I mean, it is something that, you know, both the council and the recreation department and the county are engaged in and should be engaged in. And I guess beyond that, I wanted to just say that the event that was at Sarzadi was fabulous. It was just wonderful. You did an amazing job, and it was just like community, only it was kids and community at a park having a really good time. And I'm coming to line dancing. I am there. And I wanted to congratulate you know, our youth commissioner. That's fabulous. I wanted to ask you also if you would, and this is completely up to you, it seems appropriate that we might have a presentation to you at the city council. You know, just as an appreciation, because often when people come off of commissions, they are, you know, appreciated, but also to acknowledge, you know, your what you have accomplished, to acknowledge your accomplishments. But I wouldn't want to do that if that would make you uncomfortable. But we could conceivably have one of you actually present, or a proclamation of some sort, and wishing you well on your journey. I think it would be wonderful. It will also bring to the council the fact that your configuration is different, you know, and be right there, and why it is so important that you do have youth members. So You can think about that. No need to commit now.
It's a great idea.
You know, but I would love to see that. Yeah.
I think it's good for
And so we can be back in touch and figure out, you
Okay.
know, what the language would actually be if you would be comfortable
This
doing
would
that.
This would be a very good experience for her, given that she's going to be a political science major.
Oh, yeah. Yes, I think so. So, but once again, it's completely up to you. And Commissioner Firestone, it's been a pleasure. We haven't actually spent that much time together, but we have met on occasion. And I wish you good luck for your year. And yeah, come back and we'll reappoint you. Might be my turn by then. Who knows?
Thanks.
So, and all your work on pickleball, I know that it's very tricky to do that, and so I appreciate a level head and good thoughts around that. So I think that's all I have.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. So we'll work on that if you're so inclined.
And thank you for being here tonight.
Oh yes, for sure.
I think I say now that I am okay with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so I will talk to James, and generally, I think it's the mayor and potentially the chair of the commission together would, read a proclamation and thank you publicly for all of your work and wish, yeah, that's
great
great.
idea.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so, commissioner reports and comments. Anyone else have anything they want to talk about?
I just have one comment, particularly given what our liaisons just shared with us, and I'll be sharing this to the whole city council. We are a unique commission, so there's a lot to say for asking for the configurations that we're asking for, but also we know from our various reports from the Recreation Department, 51% of the people who use the Recreation Department live in the valley, not in the city, and 49% live in the city. The 51% pay more money. So they generate more, revenue for the department. So that's another reason in my mind to not reduce the number of non-city residents. The other thing I'll say, and I say this out of my professional expertise, when you start to shrink networks, you lose so much creativity and so much energy and so much vitality to keep any institution alive. So exclusion never leads to a good end. And I'll be there to make that point. I guess it's the next meeting, city council meeting with the second reading, because it's a really, I think, a very dangerous road to go down. And I've studied this, and I see what it leads to. It leads to companies dying. It leads to discrimination. It leads to the group that's doing the excluding being discriminated against. There's just no good outcome.
Right.
If you want a country club, go build a country club, but don't do it in public life.
Yeah, thank you. And I would say that, the commissioners also making their voices heard is great. Also, bring those numbers. Numbers are always good, and I was not aware of that. So, I mean,
it was from like 2021, 2022.
Yeah, any numbers that you have that show, that range and inclusivity is the best. So I would, and numbers help. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
I was going to just agree with what Mr. Miley said earlier about reaching out to the school district again with the, new people in charge and the money still there, that maybe there's an opportunity on the pool to kind of figure something out that works well for the city as well as the school district.
Good. I think it's a good point. And then my comments have to do with the Soul Park. We want to bring that back as a discussion item for this next meeting. We've asked for some materials. We just put some stuff together, and I figure we're such a small commission. I'm sorry you won't be here, but we might as well do the work in our meeting. So we'll bring it back to everybody with just a little more information and some of the questions, and hopefully a little more data. But so for our next meeting. so we'll make that an agenda item. That would be my, and then we'll just talk about all of it then. And
Yep.
work through where we want more information, what we think of, options and what, just have a good open discussion and see what we come up with.
Sounds good.
So that's my comment for this portion. Anything else? Okay, so then we're on to future agenda items. So I'd like to have on there a discussion item of the Soul Park.
Soul Park, sure. With a given conversation earlier in regards to the CIP, do we want to go ahead and table the sports courts updates?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's fine.
And then we can definitely.
When is our joint meeting?
So it is scheduled, that's one of the things I was going to go ahead and note. It is scheduled for August, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, okay.
So it is just in a couple months.
We only have 1 month then.
Correct. Those dates are tentative,
Okay.
and they do tend to flow. So if that's something.
So if we
that-
wanted to ask for it to be a little farther
Yep.
out, that's a possibility.
Yeah, that is a
Okay.
possibility.
Seems like, though, we should have go
Discussion
ahead and have a
item.
discussion at the
Yeah.
next meeting, yeah. And we won't necessarily have a pickleball update because it's not going to get considered at the
Yep.
council.
Till after that meeting.
Till after that meeting, so seems like Soul Park and joint meeting would be,
Do we want to discuss the strategic plan now that
I-
we have it? I know you'd like to discuss the strategic plan anytime, but
well, I think just to start the discussion about how would we go about doing that?
Yep.
I think
it's a little farther out, but we
would be
can.
beneficial, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And if you would just bring back, because by then you'll have, the CIP will have been rejiggered. Maybe you'd bring that back for
Okay.
just an
It's-
update.
Yeah, CIP,
Yeah.
CIP update. Okay.
Okay, anything else? You're, I won't look left. Okay, so that's it for future agenda items. So I will adjourn our meeting at, let's say 7:50. I'm never sure if that one's right.
Yep.
Okay, 7:50. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.